This video is dedicated to those men going through a separation or a divorce. As a divorce and recovery coach, I come across many men who now question their role in life. Their entire purpose has now changed, and that leads to a discussion that we never really discuss as guys. Existentialism and our existential crisis. Because you have more options than you know. So let's start revving that engine. An existential crisis is it's not like a midlife crisis where the guy is in their 40s, they're married and they go out and buy a Porsche. They have wild, passionate sex with a college intern at work. Instead, an existential crisis is the reality that they are middle-aged and that they've let the most significant part of their life just fly by. Rather than look for shallow solutions, they want something more, something real, like what the purpose of life is. An existential crisis can be triggered by a traumatic event like a divorce or job loss or something simple, even silly. Mine, for instance, was caught on video when a millennial referred to me as a boomer. Here it is. Feedback is a gift, and today's Christmas, because this millennial over here is going to be teaching stuff.
Okay, boomer.
That stuff.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, it was that simple. Turns out, to many, not all young people, but to many, I'm a boomer, completely skipping my generation, the one that I belong to. Where did our generation go? Couple that with the fact that millennials are now in their 40s and that the next generation, Gen Zs, that they've now joined the workforce, it made me question my significance and impact in life. I'm a grown-ass man. Where did my life go? But in order to discuss an existential crisis and what existentialism is, we must go back a few thousand years ago to the dates of Plato and Aristotle. Here, I have one of them explain it to you. Yo, I'm Aristotle, philosopher for the ages. Today, Renee, he's going to be discussing... What are you going to be discussing? Really? Essentialism. The belief that we're already born with our destiny? You're not even talking about that. Wait. You're rebuking the results. You're arguing against Aristotle? Bitch, what you come in here for? Well, that didn't go as planned. Essentialism is still around, and many people argue that it's their destiny to be a particular something. It wasn't until the late 1800s that philosophers, they began to question essentialism, and the thinking is revolutionary. It's as though all your youth, we were wrong about life, only to wake up one day and think, crap, is this all I've done with my life? The story of existentialism can be said to start with the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, there's a lot to be said about Nietzsche, but I'm going to stick with how he contributed to existentialism. He was a champion of the movement called self-overcoming and believed in the superhuman. And I love this story because, well, it can be applicable to what you're going through right now. The superhuman is the belief that a regular person rises above the circumstances and difficulties to embrace whatever life throws at them. In your case, divorce, and what to do about it. It's what makes you, as he puts it, superhuman. Nietzsche wanted his work to help us learn who we really are. He came up with 4 main recommendations for a purposeful life. I'm going to focus on the first 2. The first one involves envy, but before moving further, we must understand what envy is and what it's not. Envy is not jealousy. You have a hot girlfriend and she looks at someone else. That's jealousy. Your friend Jesse has a hot girlfriend and you wish that you had Jesse's girl. That's envy. One is about what you have and are afraid to lose versus the other, which is what you want but don't have. That's envy. Nietzsche believes that we need to own up to envy. Back in the days, religion taught us that envy, that it was a sin, but he believed that we need to use envy as a guide to what we really want. Every person who makes us envious, they should be seen as an indication to become what we one day wish to become. His second recommendation argued against Christianity because, well, he felt it protects people from their envy. In here, he used Christians as scapegoats, but if you change the wording from Christianity to society in today's day and age, we can see where he's going with this. Nietzsche believed that the Christian movement was powered by timid slaves who just lacked the stomach to get a hold of what he really wanted, and so they clung on to a philosophy that made a virtue out of tolerance for self, and they coined the term herd mentality. Question is, what gives our lives meaning? Is it God? Love, family, money, work, or fame? Well, the search for who we are, as Nietzsche puts it, we're free to make our own choices. We just have to grow the cojones to achieve this meaning. The mid-20th century paved the way to other philosophers who challenged essentialism. French philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre asked, what if we find out our purpose of life after we've been born? To an existentialist, finding your destiny or what you were meant to become doesn't just happen. The world has no objective, meaning, or purpose, but through a combination of free will, awareness, and personal responsibility, we can create our own meaning of life. Existentialists believe that if one were to just accept their circumstances and not try to pursue other options, well, we'd say that that person is just acting on bad faith. In other words, they're going through the motions with no growth. To me, as a divorce coach, this is the toughest part of the process, because having people say that that's just the way that they're made, it doesn't help in the recovery and growth process, and that's bad faith. The existentialist mantra is that existence precedes essence, but finding your essence is more difficult than we think. That's because the problem with existentialists isn't our lack of choices that we have, but rather just how terrifying the abundance of freedom we have is. According to Sartre, we're shockingly free to make choices, and we're the ones that make our own guidelines by following the herd. We are free to invent our own morality and ignore moral code of others. That's where your soon-to ex-wife came in. She wants a divorce. What's to stop her? Therefore, to many, with all the choices and chaos in life, the search for the purpose can lead to the absurd. Now, we think of something that's absurd as something silly, but for an existentialist, an absurd means searching for an answer or the meaning of something that just isn't there. For instance, something that I'm huge on in my divorce group is to stop asking the absurd, such as, why did she leave me? Or how could she do this to me? You'll never get a satisfactory answer that way. The question is, in essence, the absurd, and I tell many in the group to ask questions with answers about themselves rather than the absurd. So the best thing that we can do is to live life authentically, full of freedom in light of the absurd. We must recognize that any meaning our life has is given to it by ourselves. The problem is that for men, our identity is just changed from the married to the, oh crap, what am I going to do now? So you begin your crisis in distinct features. First is that things that were once common sense to you are now just done by chance, and this takes a real toll in your confidence, because now you begin to question everything from your judgment to your self-esteem. We question why we decide to live in this city, why you chose that career path, or why we picked this particular spouse when we really didn't have to make these choices. In short, we realize rather disturbingly that we have had much more choices than we ever thought, only to never truly entertain the idea of them. All this time, we've been much freer than we thought, and we didn't even know it. Now that you see that there are other options, you begin thinking of opportunities missed only because we were diluting ourselves about what had to be. We see that life could have been much different and that people don't particularly care which path you take. So late in life, it hits you that all of this time, you were responsible for yourself rather than your social world. During this crisis, we develop a heightened sense of death. Reality is that time is short, and if anything, with aging, it feels as though time is speeding up and that we're running out of time. And I hear this often from many of the guys, that now they have to start all over again. As the crisis continues, what makes it worse is the knowledge that there's no right or no wrong answer, and we dwell into the absurd. The beauty of existentialism, however, is that the philosophy isn't meant to shake us up, but to ask the correct question and give us insight that we have much more choices than we give each other credit. In time, as you stop with the accountability factor of your ex, a choice that you already have but difficult to stop, you're going to see that there are choices, and rather than fear them, you're going to embrace them. That's where I come in, to help with the choices or give you additional options that you perhaps didn't see because, well, let's face it, if you're going through a divorce, you have much more choices in life than you did before this, and it can be terrifying. I hope that you got something out of this video. I hope that you stop asking the absurd, and I hope that you press like and subscribe to my channel, along with comment your thoughts on the subject matter. And if you're going through the wars, join our free confidential Facebook group for men. The link is in the comment section. Last, reach out to me for some one-on-one. Just send me a private message through our group, because you can't do this alone. Thank you very much.